Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Westwood, and I'm here today with commentary editor Conn Carroll. Conn, let's talk about abortion. This past week in Kansas, there was the first statewide referendum on the issue of abortion since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and it turned out to be a pretty convincing defeat for the pro-life side. What problems did the pro-life side have in the messaging surrounding this amendment?
Basically, they couldn't really decide what they were trying to accomplish, what they were trying to do. On the one hand, you had people within this coalition, the Value Them Both coalition, that were saying, look, this amendment doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't actually change abortion law in any way. It just overturns the Supreme Court decision. But then you had other people that were also part of the coalition that said, yeah, but we have this bill that will completely ban abortion. And of course, the opponents of the amendment seized on that and said, look, they're trying to completely ban abortion. And so the message out of what the pro-amendment side were doing was completely mixed. And the voters rightly rejected it.
Democrats have sort of been touting this Kansas result as evidence that voters are overwhelmingly more pro-choice, even in conservative areas. Do you think that's the correct conclusion to draw for the pro-life movement?
I think the Democrats may overplay their hand here. I mean, first of all, this is an amendment or a vote that specifically kept the status quo, right? So Kansas already has a number of very restrictive abortion laws. People have to wait 24 hours. They have to get counseling, specifically counseling them against abortion. They also have to get a sonogram of the fetus inside. Those are all hugely, restrictive measures that the voters kept. So this is not a huge victory for abortion rights that many on the left think it is.
And also you wrote about how House Speaker Pelosi is potentially setting Joe Manchin up to be sort of scammed the way that the squad was when she decoupled the infrastructure bill from Build Back Better last fall. What is she doing there? Or what could she be doing there?
So when you had last fall, you had the Progressive Caucus that very much wanted Biden's larger $4 trillion Build Back Better agenda. They wanted that passed, and they knew that if they let the smaller bipartisan infrastructure bill go, that there would be no reason for the Democrats to come back and do the larger progressive bill that they wanted. And so for the longest time, for pretty much all of summer, they said, no, we're not going to vote for the infrastructure bill. But then they got a promise from Nancy Pelosi that if they went ahead and voted for the infrastructure bill and passed it, that Democrats would come back that same month and pass Build Back Better in the Senate. And of course, that never happened. Within a couple weeks, you had Joe Manchin completely pulling out of the Build Back Better negotiations, and the progressives got absolutely nothing. So now you're about to have the same thing. So Manchin has his deal with Schumer on the Inflation Reduction Act, which doesn't reduce inflation. But separately, he wants a bill on permitting reform. So he wants a bill that makes it easier for fossil fuel companies to build pipelines and stuff like that. And he's saying that Schumer and Pelosi have promised him a vote on that bill, but only if he passes this reconciliation vote first. Of course, as soon as he passes this reconciliation bill, there's no way the Democrats are going to come back to the permitting bill.
Okay, so I asked you this like every week of the fall, heading into the ultimate defeat of Build Back Better, which you were right about and I was wrong about, whatever. So do you think that the Inflation Reduction Act gets passed, like a yes or no?
This is, definitely has a shot. It definitely has a shot. I think they're supposed to be voting on it this weekend. And we'll see if they have time. Cinema still has some issues with a lot of the tax provisions. I'd say it's 50-50. I'm sorry, I can't take a definitive way.
So unhelpful. Thanks, Conn, for being here today. You can get more writing from Conn and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.